Sam, and I'm making this video about the full moon in Aquarius that happens in the early morning of September 6th in the US. Now, this is going to be the opposition point, the full moon opposite the last new moon, which was an eclipse. So opposite this solar eclipse in Leo, we have the full moon in Aquarius. And so we see a sort of fullness of karmas that were, let's say, initiated a couple weeks ago in Leo. So of course we have this full moon in Leo a couple weeks ago, the new moon in Leo, which was also the lunar eclipse. And that really started off a new cycle of, your personal power, your individual power. It was in the nakshatra of Magha. I talked a lot about that at the time. That has to do with establishing, establishing your kingdom, sticking up for the ancestry, the divine ancestors, and the teachings and the lineage. I use the example in the United States at that time we were having these issues around the Confederacy and the ancient teachings, and many different versions of that, and we're seeing, I've seen, actually with my own personal experience lately, talking about the zodiacs, talking about the history and the lineage of the Indian zodiacs, and really standing up for the preservation of the truth in this regard. And I've also seen debates in the Western astrology community around these things. So this is kind of the cycle, this 30-day cycle of Leo. And of course this is purely a this is a Leo cycle. Obviously this is sidereal zodiac. That's what Vedic astrology is based on. So opposite this full moon in Leo is opposite the new moon in Leo is the full moon in Aquarius, which is the opposition point. And this is where that power of the king and that power of tradition and teaching and lineage is connected with people and the culture and the society, and it would be of service, because Aquarius is literally like the people in the kingdom, the society, the culture. And so we're really getting a reflection back of the culture and how the culture receives us as an individual. And literally on an individual level you can understand this as your personal power, your personal strengths, and how is that coming back to you? Literally, not just in work. Certainly work is big because Leo is a lot about power, and we express a lot of that in our work, but just also in your life and the impact that you have and the power that you have to influence others and to share and be generous and whatnot. So what's coming back to you as a result? Notice that. Notice what's coming back to you, what the feedback is in your life and in your culture and whatnot. And this is one thing that you can understand, but it's also really about sacrificing and really connecting with something bigger. And, Aquarius is the sign where we universalize our individual self, and we universalize the individual self through, service, and through not just doing things to save our own skin, or where it's not just, okay, I'm in my comfort zone and I'm happy and I got my, maybe my family or my this or that, but I'm actually willing to step up and stand for something. And this is the Leo-Aquarius axis in the highest sense. And so Aquarius is also, as the opposite point of our individual self, Aquarius is the universalized, where we take that dignity, that personal dignity, and use it as a tool for service. Now, the thing that we always got to watch out with Aquarius energy is it a sort of dignified service? And dignified is Leo, and service is Aquarius. A dignified service, or is it a feeling of servitude at the expense of our dignity and individuality? Many times when people have a lot of planets in Aquarius, or Aquarius is important in their life, like their Ascendant or Moon or something, they grapple with the concepts of dignity or dignified service rather than servitude, rather than feeling like they're a servant. They feel they're, so they feel like they're a servant rather than they're of service, for example. And so these are issues that we grapple with, that we might be grappling with at this time. And so finding that dignified service is important, rather than just feeling like you're a servant. Again, this can come like, at our job, at our work. We're just doing it because we need the money and we need to fulfill our power center, like our family or whatnot. But we don't really step into a higher work or higher career until we are aligned with a higher purpose, and we don't then we don't feel like we're just kind of like under the thumb of the man, and all of this kind of bitterness which can really creep in with the Aquarius and with the Saturn kind of dynamic. So it's a time where you might be really noticing that, and noticing how you feel like even maybe that the government is oppressive, and you might feel this, but then what are you doing? Are you doing anything about that? Do you have a dignified answer? This could be, these are big themes now with this Leo Aquarius cycle. And again, it's happening now in Shatabishak Nakshatra. Shatabishak literally means 100 doctors or 100 medicines or 100 physicians. And these doctors and physicians and medicines are there to give an alternative healing regimen. So there's an alternative healing that is possible with this sign. It shows our connection to things that are universal, things that are not just standard and that aren't just, of the mundane. So the ruler is Varuna, who is the god of the sky and of the upper atmosphere, and is related to this sort of static, charged energy that is ripe with hidden potential and hidden strength and hidden power. So this makes for great healing and great metaphysical healing especially, and you'll see that that need to go to 100 doctors in order to find a solution leads us to self-healing and then healing others. Because all of us who are healers at some point needed to find a solution to their own pain. They needed to heal themselves, and then through that they were able to share it after they applied that medicine to themselves or their own psyche or whatever. And so it's important to notice this, and it's important to understand the need for alternative healing therapies, and these things are very important now. And so a few other things that are happening now. We have all these planets. They're still in Magha. Rahu, Mercury, Mars are still in Magha. So it's still that time where we're feeling driven and inspired. Mars is going to be in Leo for about the next month or so. But again, while it's still in Magha, it's about again, Magha is related to the Pitris, the divine ancestors, and the version of history that makes sense. The version of and what you're willing to defend. This is always what Mars and Leo is about anyway. Those of you who have Mars and Leo, like me, you're ready to defend something that's righteous. You're ready to defend the truth, for example. And you don't mind, getting in there if the fight is worth it. And so again, Magha is about the, it's about the ancestors and about the truth and the lineage. And it's also joined Mercury, which is ideas and getting the story straight, getting the ideas straight, clarifying the story. Again, these are important things, and it can just be family history, it can be a lot of things, but you might notice where you're really focusing on even like the news and the stuff in the news, or again, how it also relates to the past and heritage and history. We've seen in the news here lately in the USA, there's a version, we're looking at, there's even this thing with this law called DACA, which has to do with immigration, and those who were born here maybe getting deported and all this stuff going on. And again, you see this connection to families, lineage, ancestry, all of these things in this nakshatra. You see a lot of these themes come together in Magha. They're very important. Sun is in Purva Falguni, which is ruled by the god of delight, the god called Bhagha. And where you also see Leo is hemmed between Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter's about to move into Libra. And I have a web class on this Jupiter in Libra that you should register for. I have a link in the description below. Free web class that you can register for. So Leo is hemmed between Venus and Jupiter, which is, again, bringing a lot of grace and healing and wisdom around these Leo themes that I've been talking about. Connecting with your personal power and really getting the message out. And Saturn is also in Scorpio now. We've seen a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of flooding and a lot of, not just in the U.S., but also in India, terrible flooding has happened and taken taken a lot of lives, which is really unfortunate and sad. And this Saturn in Scorpio is showing that Saturn has been stuck at about 27 Scorpio for a couple months. It's going to be there for about another month or so. And Saturn stations, when it stations in the sky, when it kind of stops in the sky, it becomes very powerful. And you see this in a lot of, in ancient Western astrology texts, they talk a lot about the stations of planets. They're very important because the planet stations or tends to stop in the sky when it's either just gone retrograde or about to go direct or whatnot. And so this stoppage of the planet in the sky when it seems to just stay at 1 degree or so is certainly important with Saturn because it can stop for months at a time. And so this is, I think, one of the reasons why we're seeing so much around, water damage and, difficulty. Saturn there in Scorpio. And again, it refers to other kinds of emotions and other sorts of things that you might be, processing personally. And, you can often see weather shown in the astrology. And we have this Saturn in Scorpio, which is focusing so much on rain, like where rain is kind of stopped and stuck. And you also see floods with Ardra, of course, but we don't have planets in Ardra. But we also see a lot of heat. It's like fire and heat. In the U.S., it's like that. It's this sort of torrential heat wave with all these planets in Leo and the eclipse that was in Leo, and water, which is Saturn and Scorpio. And the other thing to understand is that eclipse path that just went through the U.S. It just went through the U.S. and we've had this extreme kind of heat and weather since that eclipse went through. And again, we can sort of draw comparisons where they're not there, or draw connections that might not exist, but it's pretty interesting to notice, whether you think it has merit or not. It's pretty interesting to notice. So if you want to see how this is going to influence your sign, I do daily forecasts, but also a monthly forecast for each of the 12 signs, including yours. So this full moon in Aquarius is totally different based on your rising sign. And so if you're interested in finding out what that is, you can do that. Only 50 cents if you're not a member, and for 2 weeks. And then you can also stay a member for a little more than $1 a day to get daily forecast, and then you get like 8 hours of classes as well when you join. After you join, you'll go to the member site, and there's all these classes to download and all kinds of stuff. Check it out. I've had members for more than a decade now. I've been doing this, daily forecasts, and people stay members for 7, 8, 9 years. So it's a great way for you to stay connected. People ask me all the time, is there a way where I can track every day what's going on? Is there an app? Is there this? And I tell them, yeah, there is. And actually my member site, it's called the Vedic Astrology Training Lab. It's not just daily forecasts, though it is that, and it's every day based on the Rashi, which is the sign, the Nakshatra, the Tithi, and aspects and things like I went over here every day. And then specialized full and new moon forecasts like you're getting now, although I'm going to be doing this for each of the 12 signs. So if you're Taurus, this is different than if you're a Sagittarius or whatever. All of this is given. Plus, again, the classes, and there's also live check-ins every now and then. So anyway, you can also check that out if you want, and register for the Jupiter in Libra web class. Again, this is happening. This is starting in early September. Jupiter's going to move into Libra, where it's going to be for the next year. Very important because it shows where, how your philosophies and social strata and self is going to be aligned for the next year. So anyway, I hope things are going well, and leave me some comments and share.